Section 2 in your book is about grouping symbols. So you'll notice that many of the examples are very similar, but there's going to be just a slight difference in how the parentheses or brackets or division sign separates the different expressions. For example 1, we see that they're asking us to simplify these two expressions, which means they're just asking us to do the same thing that we did in section 1. We're following the order of operations and seeing what we need to do in order to reduce these down. All right, so in this first problem, we see that we do have parentheses. Parentheses in this case are the grouping symbols. Inside, we've got 5 minus 3, so we're just going to replace that with a 2, and we still have 6 times that 2. And 6 times 2 is 12. And there's our answer for this first expression. All right, for the second expression, the only difference is now that the grouping symbol is only around the 5. So in the first example, the 5 and 3 were both inside parentheses, and here the 5 is the only thing inside the parentheses. And so what this means is we're going to start with the multiplication between the 6 and the 5, and then move to the subtraction. All right, so 6 times 5 is 30. Then we subtract the 3, which gives us 27. Now here, the grouping symbols are actually a little bit hidden. This bar right here that separates the numerator from the denominator in the fraction, that implies that we have parentheses around the numerator, which is the top expression, and around the denominator, which is the bottom expression here. So in order to start, I'm actually going to simplify each expression separately. So over to the side, I'm going to look at the numerator, which is 12 plus 4. And then to this side, I'm going to look at the denominator, which is 15 minus 7. 12 plus 4 reduces to 16. And 15 minus 7 becomes 8. And so that gives us 16 in the numerator, 8 in the denominator, which then means 16 divided by 8, which is 2. All right, in this problem, we have two sets of grouping symbols. We've got parentheses here that enclose the 7 plus 6, and then we've got brackets here that enclose the 52 divided by parentheses 7 plus 6. And the difference between these two is that essentially the bracket is around a small quantity, and the parentheses is around a small quantity, and the bracket is around a much larger quantity. And so we just keep these two things separate, knowing that this is inside the larger group. All right, so now the way that I work this is start with the inside grouping symbol and move towards the outside grouping symbol. So the first thing I'm going to do is add the 7 plus 6, which is 13. Okay, so from here, we are going to look inside this grouping symbol, the brackets, because the 13 essentially got rid of the parentheses. All right, so now I have 52 divided by 13, which is 4, which brings us to our last step, 18 minus 4. 18 minus 4 is 14. All right, in these two expressions, you'll notice that the difference is that here we've got addition and multiplication. Over here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 different operations, and we've actually got all 4 of the major operations: subtraction, addition, multiplication, and division. All right, so let's start with A. I'm going to begin with multiplication as per the order of operations. So 15 times 4 is 60. Sorry, we got a little crooked there. Now that we've got 29 plus 60, which is going to give us 89. Now the hope with this problem, problem B, is that having all 4 major operations, or simple operations, is going to force us to read from left to right. And the thing that I would like to point out is we're still going to start with multiplication and division and then move to subtraction and addition. We're just going to, within those categories, move from left to right. So for this first part, I'm actually going to do 12 times 2 first, which is 24. Now what that gives me is 19 minus 7 plus 24 divided by 8. So order of operations says do the division next. 24 divided by 8 is 3. And now we're into addition and subtraction. We're actually always going to work, when we have addition and subtraction, which are kind of the same level of operation, we're going to work from left to right here too. So I'm going to do the 19 minus 7 first, which is 12. And then I'm going to add 3. 12 plus 3 is 15. Okay, this final example is it's actually example 5 and not example 6. It's the most complicated in that we have to remember that with fractions like this, with this division, the grouping symbols are implied, so the numerator and the denominator are both surrounded by parentheses, and we're being asked to substitute 3 in for x and 8 in for y. Alright, so what I want to do is I'm actually going to color code. I've got x minus 3 in pink, so where the x is present, I'm actually just going to rewrite a 3. And then where y is present, I'm going to write an 8. And then I'm just going to rewrite that so it looks a little bit cleaner. Alright, so now what we've got is the whole thing rewritten and looking a little bit easier to read. Now, with these grouping symbols, I'm actually going to move this whole thing down to the side and make it just a little bit bigger so that I can do all of my work out to the side here and then finish up once everything's simplified. Alright, so in the numerator, remember the numerator is the top of a fraction, I've got multiplication that shows up 2 times, so I can do both of those in one step, but I'm going to remember to keep them separated by that addition. So 4 times 3 is 12, and 5 times 8 is 40. I'm now going to look at the denominator. In the denominator, we have something similar going on. We've got multiplication right here, but actually we don't have any other operations on the other side of that subtraction sign, which makes it a little bit easier. So we've got 9 minus 8, and that 8 didn't change. Alright, we're still working with the numerator and denominator separately here, so we're going to do 12 plus 40, and that gives us 52. And then in the denominator we have 9 minus 8, which gives us 1. And now what I need to remember is just a simple rule of fractions, that anything divided by 1 is just the first thing itself. So the simplified answer is 52.